Bookaholics, so welcome back to another video. Today I am bringing you another Women in SFF video. The Women in SFF videos that I have been making are basically, literally, as they say on the tin, different subgenres of sci-fi and fantasy that are written by women. And the one that I am talking about today is going to be historical fantasy, which is one of my absolute favourite subgenres of fantasy. And I've got 5 series to talk to you about today. And hopefully you'll find maybe a new favourite amongst these. Let's get straight into the books. And the first one I'm going to talk about is the Temeraire series by Naomi Novik. This one is the Napoleonic Wars but with dragons. In it we are following Captain Will Lawrence as he is captaining a ship that overcomes a French vessel during the Napoleonic Wars, and the vessel happens to be harbouring a dragon egg. Will is now in a position where this dragon is about to hatch. They're too far away from shore to be able to get it to the dragon core, so one of his crew has to take the hit and become its rider. So when the dragon hatches and chooses Will as its rider, he now must change everything he has ever known, sacrifice the life he has always planned, so that he can be the constant companion to the fighting dragon Temeraire. This is one that I absolutely loved, the bond between Temeraire and Will. The way that they are with each other, the love they have for each other, I absolutely adore. And the way that was depicted and written, the gentility, the kindness with which it's written, absolutely top tier. To me, this series is fantastic in that sense because it shows this level of chivalry, of kindness, of gentility I just find so endearing. This is a 9-book series. It's episodic in nature. It's literally just like a trip around the world. Each book is set in a different part of the world and shows a very interesting outlook on the world during this time. We've got different dragons. The crew of people that we follow starts to grow as the series goes on as well, which I always found really fun. But it is episodic, so there are some episodes that I like less than others. So it's not a very consistent series. It's not one that I'm like every single installment's a banger, but there were definitely some 4 and 5 star reads in here. There just also happened to be some very low 3 stars in here, so do bear that in mind. But if you're wanting something to just kind of like read at your own pace, like read one a month or something, I would highly recommend checking out this series. The next one I'm going to talk about is the Louise Morgan Witch books. Now, this is not technically a series and not listed as a series on Goodreads, but it has overlapping characters and vibes, so I still always count it as a series. We've got 4 books in this series, the first one being The Secret History of Witches. We then have The Age of Witches, A Witch's Kind, and also The Great Witch of Brittany. The Great Witch of Brittany is the one that's furthest back in time. It is set during the late 1700s, I believe. Then we have Secret History of Witches, which spans over a huge amount of time, starting with 1821 and ending at World War II. So we're following multiple generations as this occurs. And then the next one that we have is A Witch's Kind, which is, I believe, set during World War II. And then we also have The Age of Witches, which is set during the 1920s. So they're all over the place historically, but we're basically just following how witches and women who are close with nature are existing throughout this time. And for example, in this one, as I said, it's a generational saga of witches. The Great Witch of Brittany is following the matriarch of this family that kind of started this familial line. We're following, in the Age of Witches, we're following the Jazz Age and families that are kind of competing for magic and the power that gives in this tussle that is the 1920s. And then you have 2 women raising this unusual, clearly magical baby together in A Witch's Kind. And I really enjoy all of it, really. I just really love the historical depictions. It's centering witchcraft in a really feminist light, in a very much like, this is the power of women, like the tangible power of women, and the way that gets repressed, or the way that we feel the need to hide it, the way that gets vilified throughout history. And the witchcraft for me always is a stand-in for just whatever women's strengths were, be it intelligence, independence, anything of that like, and the way that would have been treated in different eras. And I really appreciated the historical context in here, all whilst having these witchy vibes. The next one that I have is the Hanged God trilogy by Tilda Colt Holt. This is again one of my favorite series that I don't really talk about enough, and this series is set during the Christianization of the Viking era. So it's basically how the Norsemen are stepping away from Norse paganism and towards Christianity, and their different reasons for doing so. And basically we are following multiple perspectives during this time where we are following the Christianization. One of them being the son of a chieftain who is going to have to prove his worth. One of them being a wife and mother who has a secret that she has been keeping for a long time and she must now reveal herself. We are following a young woman who, following an incredibly traumatic event, happens to accidentally unleash some of the monsters from Helheim, and it's how they all come together and how this factors in with the gods, and it includes following Ragnarok. So I am really excited for more people to read these, because really not enough people talk about this series, and it's such a good series. I don't know why no one's talking about it. It's like epic fantasy, but obviously with a low fantasy setting, in the sense that part of it at least is set in our world. We do also go through several of the 9 realms from Viking mythology, but I just found that the way this was written, the way it's told, it feels really authentic and it feels really immersive, and especially the historical side. Anything from the way that we do seafaring to combat all felt really, really authentic, and I really enjoyed that. So if you're someone who likes this period in history, I would highly recommend checking it out. Another one that is kind of partly low fantasy is the Daevabad series by S.A. Chakraborty. The beginning of this is set in, I want to say, early 1900s, maybe late 1800s Egypt. We're following Nari, who is she has magic where she can kind of heal people, but she uses it mostly as a con artist, where someone will come to her, she will prescribe them with this absolutely deadly illness, then send them to the apothecary. They will spend a fortune on all the things that they need to heal themselves, and then they will split the proceeds. So it's a very interesting story in that sense, because it's like someone with magic but then misusing it, which I really enjoyed. And then one day when she is doing one of her cons, she accidentally conjures a djinn who realizes she has magic and takes her to the magical city of Daevabad. A djinn fantasy, but it does take place partly in Egypt. We do have conversations around the French colonialism of Egypt during this time, and then the way that that is paralleled within the Daevabad world. So I really did appreciate that, because it's like military presence and oppression of culture were discussed obviously within the real world context before they're discussed in the fantasy context. So while the historical part isn't there for a huge amount of the book, is still important to the narrative, and therefore I wanted to add it onto this list. And the last one that I have to talk about today is arguably the most iconic, the most well-known, I would say, of the historical fantasies, and that is the Winter Night series by Catherine Arden. This is the Christianization of Slavic culture. We are in a world where we are definitely in Christian society now. This is set in the 1400s, but we are at a point in which we are trying to crush out the remaining links to paganism. So all of the small rituals that people in the more rural areas still keep in practice, like leaving food out for the domovoi, which in this world are real, and our protagonist Vasilisa can see them, and she can see how they are dwindling because people are not leaving them offerings anymore. But the domovoi are the only thing that's keeping these people safe from this oncoming evil that now can't really be stopped. And we're following Vasilisa specifically as she is in this town that is run by her father, and when her father remarries, his new wife brings along with him a priest, who are the ones that are now pushing all of his people away from the domovoi and further towards Christianity. And I absolutely loved this series. I loved the way that we have the historical and the fantastical. As it's set in the 1400s, we also have the pushback against the Mongolian Khanate as well, and the way that the Russian people seeking independence. So many things going on in here that I really, really did appreciate, and the conversations that were had were incredible, especially when it comes to religion, but also when it comes to culture, to women's place in society, etc. So absolutely love the series. Beautifully written. And if you've not read it yet, what are you doing? And there you have it. Those are 5 historical fantasies that I have read that I would highly recommend you check out. If you have any other recommendations for historical fantasies for me, the ones that are, I think, most on my priority list at the moment would probably be the Sophie Keach Morgan Le Fay series, and then Children of Gods and Fighting Men by Shauna Lawless. So yeah, if you have any other historical fantasy recommendations for me, please leave them in the comments down below. And that is all from me for today, so I'll hopefully catch you in another one soon. Bye.